Hello, this is Mr. McFall to talk about the e-learning assignment. And so pretty simple today. You're going to complete that 5.3 lymph and blood cells assignment. I'm going to give you a little bit of explanation here on the last part that we really haven't talked about. So we've kind of gone through the blood type, and you're going to work using the data that we looked at in class the other day. If you weren't here, you can look at the data here and try to develop a pedigree for the Doe family, right? And follow these directions and make sure you have these individuals and write their blood type inside of the shape since we're not circling or anything like that. So put A, B, AB, or O for their blood type. And also determine the blood types for John and Mona, who have passed away previously, but you should be able to figure them out based on their relationship. And once again, if you go back to 532, there's a description here that kind of tells the relationship between everyone. And so hopefully that should not be too challenging for you to do. And so if we go back, by the way, this information, Sue said that she's blood type O. So that definitely helps you as well. And then for 533, fighting off the flu, basically I want you to redraw the flow chart that you see in 533 all the way down to step 6. And this flow chart show right here shows humoral immune response versus cell-mediated immune response. So basically, when someone comes in contact with an antigen, some sort of pathogenic surface protein, like you would see on the flu, that gets engulfed by a macrophage. And that macrophage, once it has engulfed the antigen, becomes an antigen-presenting cell. And so the next step, I always say it's kind of like a dog going and finding an animal and bringing it back to its owner to show what it found. And then the helper T cell is then going to do the following. It's going to stimulate both B cells and cytotoxic T cells. Let's talk about the B cells first. It's also at the same time going to produce memory T cells. We'll talk about those more later. So it stimulates the B cells, which create plasma cells, which make antibodies that are specific to this antigen. Additionally, it stimulates cytotoxic T cells, which give rise to active cytotoxic T cells, which then basically destroy or lyse the infected cells that we have. It's also how the body fights its own cancer cells and tries to stay on top of cancer cells that may initiate in the body. So while basically these antibodies are attacking the pathogen, the flu virus, for instance, and these T cells are attacking the infected human cells so that those cells don't cause any complications in the body. So you really are attacking it on two fronts. And then it also causes the production of memory T cells, which stimulate memory B cells to be made and memory T cells to be made. So these will then be stored in the lymph nodes in the body. And when there's a second exposure, none of this has to happen. All of this first exposure stuff does not have to happen. Now, second exposure, we go straight to memory B cells, straight to memory T cells, which get to work right away at stopping the spread of the infection and stopping the pathogen. So basically, if you'll copy that chart down, hopefully that explanation helps understand what it means. Copy it down here. Summarize the difference between humoral and cell-mediated immunity. You don't need to fill out all this space. Um, I kind of made it bigger because of this box, and then just explain the role of each of these things within that immune system. And then finally, the last thing is to graph this data. All right, you're going to use a line graph. Use the line graph. Basically, they're going to be on sort of the days are going to overlap. So use one color for this graph for this line, and a different color for this line, or like a solid line and a dotted line. So time is going to be on your x-axis, and antibody titer basically is the concentration, the level of antibodies in the bloodstream, right? Because we're talking about antibodies, right? When you have an infection, you have antibodies that are produced. And so we see the initial exposure on day 1. We have no antibodies yet, right? And so there's this reaction to that. And so after 28 days or so, that antibody level goes down again. Okay, and then second exposure, we see this response. So basically, what I want you to do is um, plot the data on one graph and label your axes. And so then on this graph paper, you will, if you didn't bring this paper home, you can do it on another sheet or something. Um, you're going to put time on the x-axis and antibody level on the y-axis. You'll have to spread the graph out, numbers out quite a bit because you go all the way up to 5,000. So that makes it a little bit tricky. If you wanted to create like a line break or something for that, you could, so it's not so spread out and all. So you may do something if you wanted to do. Really, the first 100 is going to be spread out. So if you wanted to kind of make it logarithmic in some way and make this like, I would say maybe this is 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. And then from there, each one maybe can go up by 200 for 400, 600, 800, 1,000. You can even break it up to 5,000 from there. So the axes, so that you can get the data on there, may have to kind of um, be modified a little bit to be what's called a logarithmic scale. And then answer these questions and kind of look at the spikes in the antibody response for the first exposure and compare it to the second exposure. All right. So that should be turned in as soon as you can. Get that turned in this week. Additionally, the end of course assessment I've tentatively scheduled for Thursday, February 25th. Remember, we extended the trimester. So this is a big EOC review document that you can start looking through to review some of the older material. Once again, that is going to be weighted very, very lightly in your overall grade, but that right now I'm planning on having you do that on Thursday, the 25th in class. So that is it. If you have any questions, make sure you reach out to me and let me know. And stay safe out there. Hopefully, I'll see you soon. Thanks.